Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining in on our happy marriage date night. And these are our great friends, Darren and Beck Chapman, who we've known now for a couple of years and done ministry with a few times, 3 or 4 times over the last couple of years as well.
Right.
And it's always a blast. We spent a couple of days with you guys. What was it, back in March? It was just before lockdown, wasn't it?
That wasn't March.
No, it was like June.
Was it June?
Fire with us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. So good.
And I think it was literally while we were with you at your staff retreat that we were getting news that lockdown was about to happen.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And we didn't even have church in the building that Sunday, did we?
Yeah. So you were actually the last people we saw in person.
I'm so sorry.
Very honoured.
That was great. It was awesome.
So tonight we've got a few questions that we're going to ask you guys. And then also, as you are listening, everybody else listening in tonight, again, thanks for joining. So good to see so many of you jumping on.
Yeah.
As you're listening to Darren and Beck, be thinking about questions that you can ask. So we're going to save a little bit of time at the end and give you guys a chance to ask some questions as well. Before we do get started, I just want to give Darren's book a plug because it is a great read. The Happy Marriage, there it is up there on the screen for you.
Here's a paper copy.
There's a paper copy. There you go. We're seeing it in jewel. So you can find that on Amazon. I got my copy on Amazon, and then you can also go to thehappymarriage.com.au. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you can order your copy there. But before we get started, just Darren and Beck, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I can talk about us.
Sure.
Yeah. So we have been married for together 25 years, but married for 23, on the way to 24. We've got 4 kids. So one that's nearly 18 and twins who are 16 and an 11-year-old. And so they're all pretty fun. We pastor most of the time. We pastor in Newcastle and have been doing that for nearly 20 years.
Yeah, almost 20 years.
Wow.
And I work full-time for the church. We have the church has got Orsh Centre, so before and after school care and vacation care. So I work sort of in that capacity and sort of pastorally along the way, and Darren works for our CAP centre as well as sort of pastoring sort of the other days. So, keeps us.
Yep, we're pretty bored most of the time. Yeah, that's what we do. We just had a real passion lately to, in the last kind of 5 years maybe, to sow into marriages. So in fact, last night we started a young marriage group, just a 7-week course. We had 8 couples join us. It was awesome.
That's great.
Going through some of the content from my book and talking it out a little bit, helping them to apply it, and it's pretty cool. Pretty happy.
Yeah, awesome.
Pretty happy.
Very good,
aren't we?
So tell us a little bit about the book. How did the book come about? I remember watching on Instagram over the last couple of years, sitting at cafes, pictures of you sitting at cafes, writing the book. But tell us a little bit about the journey. I mean, why write a book about marriage?
Yeah, look, I think we just I've loved being married to Beck, and and I like to think about how humans work. I like to think about how we process and how to make things better. And then we just kind of landed on a lot of conversations over the last 10 years with other couples where we were kind of starting to say the same things over and over again. And, it would be like, well, how often do you get to spend time with each other? And how often do you argue? And, what's your long-term vision for the future and things like that? And we started to kind of give the same kind of encouragement. And I had a chat with some people who are much smarter than I am. And they said, you really need to you need to make this into a book. This is a great concept. So came up with the concept of the book kind of over lots of chats. And I love Venn diagrams. You can see that the front of the book is a Venn diagram, So if you've got intimacy in the middle and everyone wants to be intimate in their relationship, not just physical, but also emotionally, like mentally, spiritually intimate. There's actually 6 forms of intimacy. So if you've got connection flowing, you feel connected, you laugh and you spend time talking and having fun together. If you're on the same page, if there's unity happening in your marriage and you've got vision, you're going in the same direction, then intimacy is kind of the natural byproduct of those things. So yeah, I ran the concept past a few really super smart people and they were like, that's actually pretty good. You should write that into a book. And I was like, yeah, I got my Fridays off every second Friday. I'll start doing something. And then it turned into a book. So, yeah.
And now, not just a book as well, but you got quite the following. I think 80,000, more than that now, maybe?
Yeah, a bit over 80,000 followers on TikTok. Yeah. That doesn't mean a lot, though. TikTok don't send me any money or anything like that. That's a shame. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool. There's a lot of people who want to better their relationship, and it's pretty cool. Yeah.
And so, so what are some of the things? I know you've been not just the new course you've been talking about, but I think you said this is the 4th or 5th time you've been in a meeting like this, talking specifically into marriages in lockdown.
Yeah.
So, Darren and Beck, what are some of the things that you are finding, people are struggling with in lockdown, married couples in particular, and, some tips, some things, some advice that because what I love about the book is it's incredibly practical, like it's something you can pick up, read, and then just put into practice straight away and start noticing big differences really quickly. Yeah. So, what are some things that are specific to lockdown, perhaps?
I think that one thing, like when we go into a pressure cooker environment like a lockdown, everything's kind of amplified a little bit. So if there are existing kind of niggles and annoyances, then they kind of get blown up a little bit more. So your communication really needs to go to another level in lockdown, and not just about, I don't want you to do that, but this is how I'm feeling right now. Like I've had a rough day, or I'm not dealing with the pressure of this and this at the moment. Little things that, would normally kind of not be a big deal might become a big deal. So communication has to go to another whole level, really, and be kind in your communication, don't just be like, you're a jerk. And, don't do that. But, being really quite kind with your communication, hey, that's kind of super frustrating when you do that. Can you not eat with your mouth open, like right next to my ear, or whatever it is that annoys you?
You were looking at me then. I did not do that.
Spouse finds it super annoying, right? Yeah.
It's a brain disorder.
It's a brain disorder. It is. I have that disorder.
Really?
It's legit a brain disorder. I think that they call disorders for just normal annoyances these days. But the other thing that we've been talking about to a lot of different churches is managing your spacing really, really well. So it's hard when you're like in each other's pockets like all the time, and you kind of feel like you're cramped and you're always with each other. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're always here. So lots of people feel quite smothered in lockdown. So it's about communicating that, hey, kind of feeling super like cramped at the moment. Can you give me a little bit of breathing room? Or you can easily feel disconnected, like you're in lockdown and it's, people's mental health is going up and down and dealing with different levels of finance and all kinds of stuff. And sometimes it's kind of easier to feel disconnected. Even if you're in a small house together, doesn't mean you're connecting. Doesn't mean you're enjoying each other's company all the time.
You're just together a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a big difference between just being in a house or a room together versus actual connection, right?
Totally. This isn't a holiday, like you're not on the Sunshine Coast and living it up with, drinks at the bar or looking over the beach every day. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, a lot different.
Really is in a different situation. So like for us, some people are, everybody's working from home and trying to homeschool children. Others, one's going out to work. So for us, Darren's I'll use the term loosely. He's homeschooling children.
There's not much help happening here.
And I come under the essential worker category. So I'm out all day. Darren's the extrovert. So really it would be so much better if he could go out to work. I'm more introverted and I'm fine with, my own company, but I come home and like, they're all dying for someone else to talk to. And, it's so different, like for different couples, it depends on your scenario, You might live in a big house and be able to have lots of space. You might live in an apartment that's barely got a courtyard.
Yeah.
It's
true.
About being kind, I think, in your spacing and kind of knowing when you can go, hey, look, I'm just going for a walk. No, you don't need to come. I'm totally fine by myself.
You just went for a walk. I know. I'm going again. Totally. Yeah.
I love what you said before too about, because it kind of feels like something you shouldn't say, say if you're, you are working both at home together, you've got homeschool going on, there is a lot of together time. It feels like something a healthy couple shouldn't say, like, I need some space right now. Like that doesn't feel like a normal, healthy. Do you feel like couples struggle, like even expressing that? Does that mean that there's a problem if I feel like I need alone time?
Yeah,
I
probably.
love alone time.
She loves it when I go out to meetings and she gets to have time without me because she's an introvert and I'm an extrovert.
Yeah, that's me.
So are you the introvert?
I totally am. I love it. We both are, really.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I think, when you're energized by your own time, like not being with people all the time, it took us, like, early in our marriage, we struggled with this idea, and it took us a bit to work out that it's actually okay that we are so different, and it's okay. Like Darren used to be a little bit offended that he'd be like, I'm like going out with such and such, and be like, yeah, cool, see ya. Like, and
I'd be like, don't you need me more than this?
He wanted me to want him more, like, and we had.
I want you to want me, yeah.
So doesn't she love me? Because she's so happy that I'm going out.
Yeah.
But it comes up like regularly, I think, for couples, is sort of trying to get that balance of, it's actually got nothing. This is not about you.
Right.
This is about me being happy with my own company.
Yeah.
And I'm
energizing
energized more when I just have some time to myself.
Right.
And for him, he's energized when he's hanging out with people all the time. So just finding that balance and being able to be okay with what the other person's thing is.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Because you want health for each other. You don't just want to suffocate the other person. You just want to be healthy. So that might mean giving them some space as well and communicating that,
We have a bit of a code when we have difficult things to talk about. So if we think that we're about to approach something that's might be a bit sensitive for the other person, or a bit of a hard conversation that we think, the ones that you put off and you think maybe if I just leave it, it'll get better. But let's face it, that never happens.
Doesn't happen.
We have this thing, we committed when we were first married that no matter how hard it was, we were always going to talk about it. And there's plenty of times where I've regretted that we ever said that to each other. And I've thought, why did we agree to this? Like, I don't want to talk about this. It's too hard.
Yeah.
But we have this thing that we say to each other that starts with, so in the interests of open communication, and we know that is the code for brace yourself. This might not be the funnest conversation we had today.
Right.
Just so that we can, and it makes the other person kind of go, all right, I'm ready. Yeah. Okay. This is important. Whatever it is, it's important enough that they need to bring it up.
That's right.
And it's hard for them to approach it. So I think through lockdown, like, it's a super helpful thing to be able to go, okay.
Hey, can we just talk about this
conversation
thing?
Coming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. We used to have with great friends of ours. We used to have a code. We were building a duplex together. And so when we did that, we both moved and lived with our parents for what turned into about a year. And so we developed this code, which was Matt Damon. And if anybody texted each other Matt Damon, we knew that we were struggling to live
living back home with the parental.
Close, and so it was like, all right, rescue on the way. We're going out for another.
Anytime, any place, Matt Damon. We've got to get out of there.
So it's similar to what you've established, but maybe not so. No, I love that. That's really important, because I think sometimes, like it just gives you a second to kind of collect yourself, right, and get ready to engage in what's going to be perhaps a difficult conversation, but obviously a needed one.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes they're actually not as hard a conversation once you get it started. It's just getting over the hurdle of what you've built it up in your mind to be. Sometimes they're, sometimes we've had it, and say I've brought something up and I've thought, oh, how's he going to handle this? Like, I think this, is this going to hurt him? Is this going to be offensive? Is this, going to be something he's just like, heck no, like, but so often it's been a case of, oh, okay, no, gosh, I didn't even think about it like that, and it's just a case of getting on the same page and understanding the perspective of the other person. And, sure, there's been some tough ones that, we wouldn't want to have to do again, but that comes with anybody who's been married for more than, 3 years, maybe 2 years,
2 minutes.
Yeah. 2 minutes. Really? There we go.
Was it that hard?
Apparently.
No, it's been a dream, sweetheart. An absolute.
That's right.
Darren and Beck, any tips when do you guys consider, the timing when if you're about to, in the interest of healthy open communication, are you considering the timing that you might start that conversation? Any tips around that?
Yeah, 100%. You don't want to start that conversation when you're about to go to work, or putting the kids to bed, or, like you're really tired, or, there's a sickness, or, you just need to time it well, and you can even schedule it as well and just say, hey, is it okay if we chat about, I just need to talk about this thing. Is tonight okay? Or, and if your spouse says, tonight's not a great night for that, I'm kind of feeling pretty low or whatever. Okay, maybe let's talk about it on Thursday. Cool. Oh, yep, great. Let's talk about it Thursday night. And then that we're going to deal with it. The other person gets a chance to process it in the meantime. And then along the way, until the conversation, you can still be kind and loving.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great.
Our processing styles are quite different. So that's a thing we've had to learn, that timing is super important. So whilst Darren's an external processor, I'm internal. So sometimes, in the early years, it'd take me a few days to process, and I had to learn along the way to that in my processing, I didn't need to be a cow. I could still be kind and loving while I was processing, even if I was a bit irritated.
She did learn, and our marriage was saved as a result. No, it was fun.
Deary me. There'll be a bit of a conversation later, I'm sure.
Yeah. In the interest of open communication, what? You can't say that on Zoom. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So in the book, Darren, you talk about a framework that works.
Yeah.
So, and you use those connection, unity, and vision.
Yeah.
So do you want to just expand on that a little bit more? How does that work in creating a happy marriage?
Sure. I think these things, I believe, create intimacy quite naturally. So, we can often try and force intimacy, but if we're not connected in the first place, like if we're not talking and creating that space of emotional safety and vulnerability, if there's not laughter and fun, and, if there's a whole bunch of things that we're not on the same page about, that's just providing lots of friction in the relationship, which means that there's the intimacy that we're wanting is really difficult. So, I think that when you're intimate, it's fun. There's a lot of happiness. There's a lot of joy. Our relationship is mostly a lot of fun, a lot of joy. We don't have to deal with, there's not tension all the time in our relationship. There's not, it's not friction, because we try and deal with things quite quickly. Whenever there's a disagreement, that's a place where you're not in agreement. So that's where you need to get on the same page and have those conversations. So we all want intimacy. Intimacy makes us feel like we're safe and this person wants me and loves me. I'm accepted. I'm loved. I'm approved. And that there's a lot of joy in that. And so, yeah, that was the idea, that when we are really connected on the same page and going in the same direction, those three circles, intimacy is just going to be flowing quite naturally, because we're already in love, like we already love each other. We already like each other. So if we are connected and, just things like all of our time together is not spent in front of a screen, like even things like that, like date nights or dates in the daytime or whatever, are a priority, and we make time to talk and connect. And, we're always sending each other something funny during the day, or, making each other laugh. We watch funny shows together to make laughter normal. And we have dreams about the future that we want to do together, and, the kind of relationship, the kind of marriage that we want to build. So there's that sense of future security, and that sense that we're building something together in the future that we both love, we both want. And I think that just creates a natural kind of flow of intimacy. If you're not on the same page, you're not connected, and you're unsure about your future direction, like if you feel like you're doing this, there's just not a lot of joy in that. And intimacy is a chore. Intimacy is hard. So, yeah.
That's great. And of course, you unpack those areas a lot more in the book as well. And so, you got great examples in the book on how to build those things, vision and connection and unity. And then, I mean, it is. It's like often you might be struggling with intimacy or wondering why there's a lack of intimacy, but not understanding there's building blocks towards intimacy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And oftentimes couples will try and deal with a problem without first being connected. They come in after work and they're all like, you did this and this happened, and my car broke down because you didn't get it serviced, and blah 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 blah. And they haven't taken the time to connect and enjoy each other before they've launched into this huge thing. And lots of couples do that, and it's like running a car without the oil in the first place. Like the gears are going to grind and everything's just going to be like, you're going to break it because there's no oil flowing, and connection is like that oil that kind of makes everything run a bit smoother.
So good.
Is that something, I mean, you kind of just described a scenario there. Is that something you find quite helpful as far as, coming home from a day of work and intentionally having that connection moment before, perhaps moving on with the dinner and the kids and all those kind of things, so that the rest of the night can flow from that?
Yeah,
absolutely. We sort of have become quite intentional about connection, because I guess we've recognized over the years that like everything else comes out of that. Like if we don't feel connected, if you just sort of have, you can just go along in life and you get busy with work or projects, or, whether you've got renovations happening or kids to take to things, work or whatever's going on, life can get busy, and it's really easy just to sort of end up a bit disconnected and just sort of feel a bit like, like we're just carrying on in life and don't really know sort of where each other's at with sort of different things. And but we sort of are quite intentional on like debriefing the day fairly early. So if we've been apart, which is most of the time through the day, because I go to work, but these days our system at the moment is fantastic for me. Maybe not as good for Darren, because I come home from work at sort of, somewhere around, between 5:30 and 6:30, we'll say. And Darren generally cooks dinner these days, which has not been for the first 22 years of our marriage. And he had a very steep learning curve last year and had to learn
in
to cook.
lockdown. Yep.
Everything on the Weber, mate. Put it all on the Weber.
Well, it was kind of like that for a while. Spaghetti's a bit hard though.
But these days, I'll come home, he'll cook dinner. I tend to sit on the other side of the kitchen bench. I say hi to Darren, I go say hi, work my way down the hallway to say hello to the rest of the family, come back to the kitchen bench and on a good day, there's a glass of wine waiting for me. And I sit and have a glass of wine while he's cooking dinner, and we just talk about our day, like what was going on in the day, and, you know, highlights, lowlights, you know, we're not so specific in calling it that, but essentially we're just talking about, you know, what was good and what wasn't about our day, and just sharing what's happened sort of since we last saw each other. And it's a really good platform for us to go into our night together, regardless of what the night's going to look like. And we've know then that we've connected, like we've fully connected sort of through the day, like about the day at some stage in that sort of 24 hours. It's not just we fell into bed at, you know, 11 o'clock and, you know, so that, you know, half grunted before we fell asleep, you know? So we just try and have got really intentional about sort of connecting, because it's easy for it to slip away.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
You guys definitely seem to have, there's an agreement, you know, that you've come together and these are, you know, like those our touch points. This is what we value. So that's what you are intentional about. So would you suggest, you know, for every couple, that's a pivotal conversation to have, like for us in our marriage, what are these, I don't know, marker points throughout the day that are going to build our connection and come together and communicate and agree on those things?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Absolutely. Just say, hey, how do we want to make sure that we're connected? Like what works for us? What's working for us now? And what could work a bit better?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is worthwhile. We just created this little kind of survey. I can send it to you, maybe Aaron and Kristen. And it's just like a little connection snapshot for, you know, asking some questions of yourself and then discussing your answers with each other. Like, you know, what helps me feel connected to my spouse or disconnected? How often do we date? Do we spend time every day talking, debriefing, laughing without distraction? Are we satisfied with our level of connection? I'll shoot that through. Maybe
sounds great.
Something that you could, you know, you guys could just fill out, and gives you a bit of an understanding as to how well you feel like you're connecting. And then can, you know, it lands on some brainstorming for dates that you could do. Like, what could we do at home? Like, let's order in some really, really nice food and, you know, chat or sit with a glass of wine or something and talk about something. So
because it changes, you know, and we've had times, I know that we've had conversations, you know, in the interest of open communication type conversations where one of us has said, actually, I just feel like we're not really connected at the moment. And the other one's been like, oh, really? Oh,
what are you talking about?
Like, so if we'd have filled this in, we'd have found that we were like, you know, poles apart and had a bit of adjusting to do.
Totally.
So that we were both, you know, feeling it.
Yeah.
And those things change, don't they, from season to season? Like, you know, from young kids to older kids to empty nesting, like it's something.
Absolutely.
It's definitely changes.
Even just like in a busy few weeks. Sometimes you can lose connection sort of over that time, and you know, needs a bit of addressing.
Or, you know, 20-week lockdown.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Hello.
Yay.
Well, we're about 12 weeks ahead of you guys. So,
oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And I think lockdown when you're 5 k's from the beach is not lockdown, by the way. Too just.
Yeah, no. Just I'm sorry. All these peaches from Newcastle lockdown.
Count.
Like what?
Yeah. Oh no, we're in lockdown. Yeah, we're a bunch of whingers, aren't we?
So on that topic though, lockdown.
Yeah.
Extra pressure. All of us are under. The majority of us are under extra pressure. You know, I mean, our situation, you know, we're both still working full time, but now we've got 3 kids to homeschool as well. And so lots of different things that we're juggling there, you know, it's COVID itself introduces a lot of different challenges and pressure. You know, Woolworths, checkout ladies, any person allowed to visit these days. And so, you know, we're not getting the normal kind of connection and relationships. What are some practical ways that we can relieve the pressure for our spouse, recognizing, you know, what pressure they may be feeling that we're not feeling? What are some ways we can help relieve that pressure for our spouse rather than add to it?
Look, I think it comes down to Ephesians 5. really, and that is just love and sacrifice for one another. You know, love. I think love is really easy, but we don't want to do it because we're all thinking about ourselves so much.
True. So true.
Like loving, like just helping and serving and thinking about the other person. It's not that hard, but we just don't want to do it. So in order to love Beck, well, maybe I will wash up one night that I've cooked, which is against the rules in our house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can't do both. And so, yeah, basically just what's going to bless the other person? What's going to love the other person? How can I take some pressure off Beck? What else can I do for it? Now she's acts of service, so it helps to know your spouse's love languages, right?
Yeah.
I am not acts of service. Like sit with me on the lounge, hold my hand, kiss me every few minutes. I'm happy. I'm really happy. Whereas for Beck, she's like, get off me, go and do the washing up and vacuum the house and I'll feel loved. So it helps to really understand what's really going to make a difference for your spouse, and then step into that as much as you can. But love and sacrifice, it's powerful. Serve each other. Like I was just thinking communication is really key again as well. It's really going to be the key for every pressure situation, because you want to be able to stay in touch with how where the other person is at. If you don't read them so well, sometimes you want to know when they're crashing or when they're thriving. Sometimes I've texted Beck during the day and said, I'm just not having a great day today. Like I'm stuck in my little office with kids all around me and I'm demotivated and feel like I'm kind of crashing in my soul a little bit. And that just helps her to know when she comes home, if she's got capacity to then, hey, how you doing? Like I bought you some chocolate or something. I dropped in at Woolies on the way home and bought us dinner because, oh, awesome. But thinking about what's really going to take some pressure off the other person. But it also depends on your capacity at the time too. Like, when you've got high energy and high buoyancy to then do extra, you know what I mean? But when you are low, when your energy is low and your soul is a bit, feels like it's in the mud a little bit, then just do what you can and communicate as best you can and say, hey, I just need a bit of help right now. I'm not doing super well. So that communication and opening up about the state of your soul is really powerful because it helps to frame your spouse's expectations as to what they can expect of you. And if they don't know that you're kind of got some turmoil or some struggles going on, then their expectations are going to be right up here all the time. So communicating where you're at helps those expectations to be managed a lot better.
I think
I love that.
There's times where we've been as blunt as to kind of go, hey babe, just so you know, I haven't got much left for you today. Whether that's because kids have been in your face or you've had a few dramas at work or you're just super tired. I mean, that's super helpful. Given that we're talking marriage, I can say this, but like especially when it comes to sex, the reality is Darren might be like, woohoo, like,
here we go. And she's like,
and I'm just thinking, oh, he's really, I can tell that this is where he really, but I just can't, like tonight, I just need you to
it's not every night,
get lost. So, there's times, I guess, whilst that's not the norm, but, sometimes I just go, you know what, I need to just get ahead of this and just let him know where I'm at. Like, I'm just
going to cut this off early. Okay.
So, which is fair because then, you can go to the lounge room, put a movie on or put, football on, get some popcorn and you're
totally.
Good.
I'm making sure the Xbox controllers are charged up at that stage.
Oh my goodness.
Totally.
No, I love that because I think, often you are aware that, okay, my partner, my spouse, Kristen's, had a tough day.
Yeah.
And you at times had the energy, perhaps, okay, look, you were going to cook dinner. I've got it. You go relax, you go chill out, take some time. I've got dinner. But other times you don't have the energy yourself as well. And so giving you permission to say, actually, you know what, obviously we're both really struggling now. Let's just, get through the night, manage what we can, managing that tension between your own energy levels and that love and sacrifice like you were talking about. But the key being, talk about it. Don't let your partner guess what's going on.
Absolutely.
Talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which I'm great at. I'm great at letting you in, right? And just communicating. Yeah. All right. I'm seeing.
Big internal process.
I'm an internal process as well. So often I'm like, well, I'm thinking that I've had a bad day. Don't you know that I've had a bad day? No.
Kristen, are you an internal processor too?
I can be both.
Okay.
I can be both.
Like an ambi processor.
Yeah. I kind of.
That's impressive.
Well, I think because I need to go internal to really process what I'm thinking. I don't really like talking about things on the fly.
Yeah.
I get flustered, like that kind of comes up when we have any kind of disagreement. Like I just need some time to think, process, and then come back. And I'm much more able to express what I think about that or how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of both that way. I just need some time before I communicate what's going on.
It really helps. Like we were butting heads for years, and then we worked out, hang on a minute, you process differently to me.
Yeah.
And it just took so much pressure off because we were like, oh, let's talk about it in 3 days. Great.
Yeah, we learned like in the early days, I literally you could just about set your watch by my processing time for incredible. Big things.
Yeah.
And I would stew and brood, not godly at all.
Not helpful.
Not helpful at all. And in my processing, whilst it just took us a solid, I reckon, 5 years to suddenly go, it's actually, I still love you.
Right.
But I need time to sit on this. And I know you want to talk about it, but you're not going to get the best out of me if we talk about it now. And we would sometimes have to look at the calendar and go, okay, well, we've got Connect Group tomorrow night. That's not going to be a good night to talk about it. We've got your parents coming for dinner. So, okay, well, let's say Thursday night. And that way I knew I needed to have spent enough time, given it enough time to process, do some of that processing. And then I'd go, all right, Thursday. Okay. And we'd both just be able to settle that we're all good.
Yeah.
We've just got some stuff to deal with and we've got different timing on that. So Darren would be super ready for the Thursday and I'd make myself ready for the Thursday,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. It just, giving your spouse permission to be who they are.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah,
that's great.
So to kind of finish up before we jump in and got a couple of questions coming through from our people. Again, I know this is kind of, we've had a lot of lockdown questions, but some practical tips, guys, about how we can be, we're not going to restaurants, we're not having romantic picnics in the park or anything like that.
Yeah.
How can we be, embracing like date night and prioritizing this time with one another in this situation when we're in the same house with the kids around, maybe we've got some empty nesters here, but what are some practical tips?
I'm just going to scroll through the group of the people who are up here so I can frame our answer as best we can. Can't see everybody, but that's cool. If you've got, I think it depends on the age of your kids and if your kids are at home or if you have kids. For younger kids, you put them to bed as early as you can, and then have date night afterwards. Tell them all it's 8:00 and it's only 7:30. They don't know. Just stick them to bed, change the clocks around the house, do whatever you need to, and put your kids to bed. That's your time. So you really want to maximize the time that you're spending. If your kids are a bit older, like our kids go to bed later than us sometimes. And so we just, we'll say it's date night. Don't come in the bedroom because that's going to be bad for everybody. But like the general rule for date night is that you want it to be a connective experience. So if your date night consists of binge watching like 6 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something, and then you go to bed. Like, that's just not a connected experience. We haven't connected. Like, screen time is terrible connection time. Yeah. So how, like, order in some food and, feed the kids Maccas and put them to bed, and then sit on the bed and chat, or, grab some wine and, play a board game if you're into that, or whatever, or take time making love, just frame your date night, get some question cards, or there's all kinds of stuff you can buy online that help couples to connect. So yeah, like, you want it to actually connect you rather than, we did something and we're in the same room together.
Yeah.
I think, even in lockdown, you can make an effort.
True.
Even at home, you can make an effort. It might not be your norm. And I mean, look, this is kind of weird, but one of our kids had his first anniversary with his girlfriend recently. So in lockdown. And initially I was a little bit like, but the end result was incredibly sweet. And she's allowed to be here.
Yep.
Kind of.
We think.
Just in case the government's listening.
We won't drop you.
They rang Services Australia to ask them, right. And they kind of went, yeah, sure.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
But he set up, so we have got 2 separate living areas, so it was doable, right, at our place. And he set up a table in the front room with a tablecloth, plates, cutlery, flowers, candle.
Aww.
And we all just, left them alone.
I went and drove and got their
alone enough.
They're grilled. Came back with grilled for them.
That's right.
That they paid for.
He made this effort with the table with, cutlery, because I was like, oh, what are you eating? And he's like, grilled. And I'm like, yeah, you're eating, what's the cutlery for? And he's like, oh, I don't know, I just thought it made the table look nicer. So, it
Not
just
bad.
reminded me that, you can make an effort with whatever you've got at home. You can take some space. And, even when our younger one said, Mum, you could leave this table here and have a date night with Dad, and we would leave you all alone. I was like, no, actually, we probably could do that.
That's a good idea.
So, there are options even at home. It's just different.
Yeah. And sometimes it helps. Like, if you're in the moment and you're just not sure what to do, sometimes it helps to go one night after work, let's brainstorm all these ideas and research online and write down a whole bunch of things that you'd like to try that are date night kind of related. And then, so you don't have to really think about it. You can just go, we're going to do that tonight. And you've already got a list of things that are kind of pre-prepared for you. Yeah.
So really similar kind of rules as when when you're not in lockdown, put in some effort.
Yeah.
Right.
Do a bit of research, put in some effort. There are
some things you can do. That's right. Spend some money, get some really nice takeout or something, get it delivered if you can. That's right. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, love it.
Awesome. Well, we got a couple of questions, Darren and Beck. Thanks so much for your time so far. Really love that you've given up some time. And so I'm going to see if this is going to work properly. Hopefully it will. And you can see the questions come up there.
Oh, look at that.
And that you're able to read it. But so this is, let me just read that out. Do you have a routine of regular devotional time together as a couple or family, Bible reading time, worship? Do you have different approaches as individuals connecting with God, such as journaling, worship?
Yeah, look, we pray for several hours a day, every day together.
At 5 a.m. together.
Yeah, we're just very spiritual. No. And this is something that hasn't really ever kind of worked on a super structured level for us. So we I get up at 6:15 every morning, and I have my devotional life. And then the best thing that I do for Beck's life is I make her a coffee in the morning and wake her up.
Good man.
Sat beside my bed.
But we try and empower each other to have our own walk with Jesus. Whenever something's happening, we negative thing in the family or something that's kind of on our hearts, then we pray about it together. Yeah. But it's not a super structured thing that we do.
Certainly, spiritual conversations are a regular part of our life. That is just a part of who we are. So that is, if say, we read something in the word and we're like, oh my gosh, like I got this today, like, we would talk about that, but not necessarily like, it's not like we sit down with a devotional book, and I think if that works for you,
totally, if it works for you, absolutely.
I think you've got to find what works for you as a couple, and just be prepared to talk about it if it's not working, as well. But, we're very different to each other. And so how we connect with God is different to each other, and
true.
Even music styles, different to each other. So
no, I love that.
Very good. All right, here's another question, which is quite it's a great question, all around shift working, which can be quite the challenge. Any suggestions on how to create healthy rhythms where one spouse is in shift work, crazy hours, no consistent working schedule?
Yeah, wow. I actually did a TikTok on this one, ironically. There's you really need to maximize the time that you spend together, right? So this helps if you're a fly in, fly out worker, or you're a shift worker, or you really kind of cross paths sometimes. So those days that you have off together, so it might be one day a week, you might have 12 hours where you're kind of together on Tuesdays, and then you get Saturdays together. So you really want to think about and maximize the time that you do get to spend with one another. So it's like a date. It's like, and then in the time that you're not really together, you're trying to connect as much as possible. So you might chat on the phone in your lunch break on a Wednesday, and you'd be texting each other, this thing happened and blah, blah, blah. You might even do little videos and send each other videos or whatever, just trying to maintain a healthy level of connection while you're not together, and then maximizing the time that you are together. And communication is going to be even more important to you, and managing your expectations. Okay. I'm expecting that you're going to do 78% of the housework because you're at home, all week, and I'm going to fly here and do this. So talking about your expectations and getting things out there, and then landing in a place of agreement, not just, one person expects the world, but, landing in a nice place of agreement about those things, and then maximizing the actual time that you get to be with one another as well.
Yeah, no, that's so good. Yeah.
Hope that helps.
Yeah, no, I love that idea of maintaining communication while apart, so that the time together, you've already been building that connection, right?
Absolutely. When you get home is not the first time that you should be saying hello.
Yeah.
Take advantage of technology for a change.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's great. Excellent. Another question here for you guys. How do you manage and reconcile personal expectations and goals? And how do you set your personal needs aside for the benefit of the unit as a couple?
It's a good question.
I'd say for us, we look at things that we do as a team. So whilst we have, we're pretty good at releasing each other into things that we are interested in or excited about. So we've always, probably a priority for us, we knew when we got married, was to build the church. We were always going to be in church. We were always going to help to build the church. Whatever that was going to look like. At the time, we didn't really know what that was going to look like. And it was sort of only a few years later that we sort of felt the call to plant a church and sort of head down that track. But there's been times, so I've often worked, I've worked in different jobs. So separate to pastoring, I've worked in different jobs, always been sort of fairly bivocational. And when our youngest was about 2, I hadn't worked for a couple of years. And it got to a point where Darren had said, babe, you're going to need some money.
We're done.
It's time to go back to work.
In the interest of open and healthy communication,
yes,
you're going to need to earn some money.
This mortgage ain't going to pay itself. Yeah, that's right.
And I remember I used to find at that point we were we were struggling to get by. Three boys in school, school-age boys, and I would be, you know, they'd want to play soccer, and all I could think was, how much is it going to cost for them to play soccer? They'd bring home a birthday party invitation, and I'd look at it and be like thinking, geez, how well do you know this kid? I don't want to buy this random a $20 present. Like, I haven't got $20 for this kid. How often are you going to play with him? So, you know, recognizing these things, I had a real passion I love to bake, and I would often bake. I'd go over the top on parties. Like I was like that then. I'm less so now. But you know, I love to make beautiful biscuits, like iced, like nothing you can imagine. And Darren had ended up saying, well, what if you did something with that? Because I felt a bit, you know, our plan had always been that I would be at home with the kids until they went to school. So we had this arrangement, and I felt like, geez, this poor last child got jibbed. Like, I'm going back to work 3 years early.
Right.
And what we ended up doing is we started a business, which Darren really encouraged me and released me in. And now my confidence for that at the time was not there. And I was like, are people really going to pay money for decorated biscuits? Like, seriously? And he was like, babe, give it a go. And I remember he said to me, what's your goal with this? As we got down the process, I was like, look, you know, if we could make like $50 a week, like I'd be stoked with that. And he's like,
okay,
yep. In his head going, we're going to need more money than $50 a week, but let's let it go. But he really released me into, I guess, following what at the time I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, as if we can make money out of this. But I had the business for 5 years, and at the end of that, so it was always stayed at home. So home business, making these decorated cookies for weddings, parties and things. But it turned into, over the time, I had work on in magazines that I didn't go after any of it. I had work on, you know, like the Today Show and stuff would get me to do things there. Like things that I just go, we'd look back and we're like, what the heck is going on? These are biscuits. Are these people insane that they're prepared to spend this much money on a biscuit? You know, you can buy a packet of Tim Tams for $2 on sale. But it was very much about, we still got to build the church. We still got to have our values of, we wanted me to be around for the kids.
Yes.
Still go to athletics, carnivals and pick them up from school. But, you know, Darren really released me into something that was a dream at the time. And I remember I would regularly just sit at home doing, you know, my hand painting or whatever on these biscuits and going, I'm like the luckiest person in the world. Like, I cannot believe I get to do this. And, you know, and he's cool with it. So we very much have always worked as a team. You know, the book is probably another example. Like, you know, Darren really, I'm not a writer. But I guess, you know, someone said recently, I guess, you know, but you're like, you know, part of the incubation hub of how this, you know, without you, I guess there was no book. And I'm like, oh, I guess so. I can take credit there.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I was like, you know, he'd come back to me and kind of go, it's going to cost this much money for me to do this. And I'm like, okay, well, it's a dream. Like, let's go for it then. Like, let's do it. So just being able to release each other, I think, into what you're doing and know that you're actually both a part of that.
Yeah.
Right. A healthy level of empowering is what you want. And you also want a healthy level of togetherness.
Yeah.
So you want to have us goals and us dreams, but then you also want to release each other to do your own personal stuff too, if it doesn't align with what you like. Right? Things like that. So but healthy, empowering, healthy togetherness. That's the goal. That's all in my book, you know. Oh my gosh, it's in the book. It's like me and us goals. And how you navigate that.
So it takes both for a happy marriage. Both are required.
Totally. Because she's not going to want to do all the things that I want to do. And vice versa. But I want to empower her, but we want to make sure that we're not just empowering each other to do all of our own things and dividing us. We also need a really healthy level of togetherness and things that we're doing and achieving and sowing into together.
Great. Very, very good. Last question, and kind of flowing on from that as well. advice for when one feels like they're the one making more sacrifice than the other.
That's all you said.
That's a big one.
80-80?
Yeah, that's a great, good point. There's a new book out called The 80-80 Marriage. I have not read the book, but I've seen a lot about the couple who've posted and understand the concept of the book. So what can often feel like, what we can often do is try and make everything fair. We can try and go, okay, let's split the chores of the house. Let's talk about household chores, because this often comes up. And we can say, okay, now with what you're juggling and what I'm juggling, and this is the household chores in the middle, let's make it fair. So it might be a 60-40 split based on what you're also juggling as well, like, you know, kids or working full time or whatever. So let's make it fair. And then we always try and do way more than our fair share, so that there's a radical generosity in your marriage. So if you feel like that you're sacrificing more than the other person, well, you need to have a conversation about it. And then you need to like maybe divvy up the chores or talk about what would be fair in whatever arena that's in. And then both have a commitment. We're going to just try and be radically generous to one another. Because if you're just kind of dividing everything and it's fair, that's not love.
Yeah.
That's just doing your part, right?
Yeah.
If I do the cooking, that's not even really love. That's just doing what I should be doing. If I do the cooking and then I clean up while she's chatting with the kids, that's love, because that's over and above what is my fair share. So yeah, so take whatever the scenario is, to have a conversation around it, get on the same page about what is fair, but then keep trying to sacrifice and love and try and, you know, beat that and bring that radical generosity into your marriage.
We were married for quite a lot of years before we ended up doing a list of, using household jobs as a thing, because it comes up for so many couples
all the time.
And we ended up listing, like, and I did the list because I was by far
doing all of the chores,
doing the work. And it was down to the details of things that Darren probably didn't even know the names of, like skirting boards, like, you know, skirting boards. Like
what are those?
Like, the nitty gritty, like, not just, the list wasn't just, you know, do the shopping, because anybody who actually does the shopping knows that there's meal planning that goes into it, and checking, like, and the unpacking when you get home. I hate doing the unpacking when I get home, you know.
That's why you have children.
Absolutely.
So we did this very extensive list, and because Darren sort of felt like, you know, oh yeah, he does it.
I contribute.
And he wasn't
Come
terrible.
on.
Like he contributed. But when we did this list, and we just wrote our initial beside the things that we actually do. And Darren just had this moment. I remember him looking at this thing, and he's looking at it, and he's just gone. And we also had the kids' initials next to things that are their jobs to do.
Yeah. And
he just like looks at this list and just goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so slack." Oh my gosh, it is so much. And I'm like,
yeah, that's why you don't get as much sex as you want, because I'm exhausted. Basically what she said. But it was
that's awesome.
Where Darren went through and went, right, this is not okay, because when we looked at what hours we did and what ministry we did and like all the stuff that we already do,
it was out of whack.
It was way out of whack.
Yeah.
And no wonder I was, you know, constantly tired. And always felt the pressure of, you know, things. And I'm not a, you know, some people would say, you know, perhaps like, oh, maybe you need to lower your expectations. You don't have to have a, you know, a pristine magazine home. Trust me, I don't have a pristine. I'm not that good at cleaning. But yeah, once we had that sorted, Darren went through the list and put his name against like
at least 3 more. And then
skirting boards.
What a guy.
And honestly, from there on in, it has been so much more about like this. We both just give generously, I think, and
we try at least.
We certainly try, and it just has worked so much better. So I think when you can actually have that conversation about where you feel like you're sacrificing so much more, sometimes it is a case of like, yeah, well, you might be, and maybe they don't really even realize just how imbalanced it is. So definitely worth a conversation.
Yeah, that's great. Very good. I love that, find what's fair and then be radically generous. That's huge. That's so good. Great language.
It's not my concept, but it's a great one.
Yeah, very good. What was the name of that book again, in case someone wants?
Called the 80-80 marriage. So the idea is that you're actually trying to give 80%. Like
not 50-50.
You're not trying to make everything 50-50. You're trying to do 80%.
Yeah.
Both of you.
Yeah. That's great.
That's awesome.
Darren and Beck, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Love and value what you guys have to say and the wisdom you brought. Sowing into our married couples tonight. We know that giving up time with your kids and coming home after big days of work as well, we know it's not an easy thing. So thank you you so much for sowing into us tonight.
Thanks so much for having us and chatting all spaces up there as well. It's been great.
Yeah, and so for everyone watching, thanks for joining in. And so again, you can get Darren's book, happymarriage.com.au. You can get it on Kindle as well, on Amazon. And then Darren's going to send through that connection questionnaire thing, which we can send out to all you guys as well, which sounds like a great little tool to help get a grid for how well you are at connecting. That ends the night.
Thanks, everyone.
1 hour filled with so much wisdom.
Woo! Thanks for having us.
No, it's been fun. We just love you guys. Awesome. You're so real and just so authentic. Likewise. and crack a sense of humor. Just
you gotta laugh.
Always good for a laugh.
Bring the laughter, guys. Bring the laughter.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
No worries. Bless you all. See you guys on Sunday. Everyone at Dayspring, we'll see you on Sunday. We've got a guest speaker, Shane Willard, with us. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be good.
See you, everyone.
Bye.